In 1982, a few legends of the horror genre teamed up to give us an anthology series of epic proportions. A visionary in George A. Romero, best known for The Birth of the Zombie, and Stephen King, who at this point only had The Shining and Carrie adapted into a film. Coming together, they created a collection of short films that immediately jumps to the top of most lists as one of the greatest horror anthologies of all time. Spawning the birth of 2 more films and even a television series, it's time to get started on this impossible journey of talking about every franchise ever. Episode 1, CREEPSHOW. Hello and welcome to Every Franchise Ever, where I, Bryan Starr, am attempting to watch, review, and rank the movies of every franchise ever. Super excited to be here because this is episode 1. I have waited years to pull the trigger on any podcast idea of mine because in a world where everyone has a podcast, that doesn't mean I should too. Not until I was happy with the concept did I want to move forward. And I really love this idea for so many reasons. Reasons, by the way, that I covered in episode 0, which will also answer multiple questions you might have about the podcast, such as, is it really every franchise ever? What's considered a franchise? And one major reason why I'm excited about this endeavor. That episode is out on all platforms if you watch or listen. It's super short, but a perfect place to take people who are just getting started. And by the way, I feel like I may not have said this, but this is not the type of podcast where, when talking about the movie, we do full walkthroughs of each movie. We are not going to talk about every single beats, every single scene that happens in the movies that I'm talking about, mainly because, some of these episodes, the franchise has 4, 6, some of them 10 plus movies long, and I just don't really want to fully take the time to dive in like that. I have plenty of friends that do that, and they do it well, and I'm going to let them. But we are going to talk about the basic premise of each movie and talk about what I am interested in, or simply just kind of review the film. Might even bring up some pieces of trivia about the movie as I talk. But yeah, keep it simple, especially as we begin this journey. But we're here not to talk logistics, instead to talk about a franchise that began in 1982. Of course, it's time for CREEPSHOW 1, 2, and 3. So, without further ado, let's get to it.
Beware, there will be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, what are you doing here? Oh well, you've been warned.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, 2 powerhouse names in the horror community combined forces to create the first CREEPSHOW film. As I said, the film, which is separated into 5 segments, 5 short films, if you will, is directed by George A. Romero, and it is written by Stephen King. And fun fact, 2 of the segments, which is Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill and The Crates, are based off of short stories by King. And then the other segments, Father's Day, Something to Tide You Over, They're Creeping Up on You, are original ideas written specifically for the movie, which I just really love. There's also a prologue and epilogue that is sort of a 6th segments that is connected, and that's where we will get started when we talk about this film. And basically, here at the beginning, for the prologue, you have this boy, Billy. And here's another piece of trivia. If you didn't know, he looks just like him. But the boy, Billy, is played by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son. He's also an author in his own right. I'm sure you know his stuff. But basically, Billy is being disciplined by his jerk of a father. All the boy wants to do is just read his comics. And of course, the dad thinks that he's going to get brain rot from that, and actually throws away his comics. And so Billy's being punished, sent to his room, and he wishes his father just rots in hell. And that's when we hear the sound of something at the window, and we turn and we see the Creep, who is kind of the icon, the mascot of CREEPSHOW. If you've seen the poster, you know exactly who the Creep is. And that's basically it when it comes to the prologue. Essentially, it's just kind of setting up the fact that the CREEPSHOW is a comic/magazine, and there's a collection of short stories inside, and those short stories is what we are going to watch, starting with a lot of people's favorites, Father's Day. The basic premise of Father's Day, we see a family, clearly rich, clearly snobby, The main person kind of talking is Aunt Sylvia. They're all gathered and waiting for the great Aunt Bedelia. She's kind of the money of the family. Within the people who are already gathered, there is a new boyfriend, and so they start talking to him, telling him about Aunt Bedelia and how she has come into her riches. And essentially, what it turns out is they all kind of know this secret. The Aunt Bedelia killed her father. It's just a family story that everyone just kind of sweeps under the rug because, yay, money. Essentially, what we see in a flashback is Aunt Bedelia had to take care of her father, who's just kind of the worst and belittles her and is very annoying and treats her like trash. And on a Father's Day, all the dad can ask for is cake. Where's my cake? Where's my cake, Bedelia? Is what he just keeps going over and over and over about. Apparently, all dads get cake on Father's Day. Didn't know that. Time to start a new tradition. Just not this insane. But basically what happens is Aunt Bedelia has had enough. And so she strikes him over the head with a marble ashtray and killing him. Fun little fact, the marble ashtray appears, I think, in every segment. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So, like I said, that's all in a flashback. And now in present day, Aunt Bedelia is traveling to the house to see her family. But first visits her dead dad in the graveyard in the back. Spills a little whiskey onto his grave, and that's when the dad comes alive, and it's this just brilliant, impressive bit of makeup done by Tom Savini. If you don't know Tom Savini, absolute legend in the horror special effects makeup game. Definitely look him up. But what really makes this creepy is the zombie-like character still continues asking for the cake. Where's my cake? The zombie dad, kills Bedelia and then continues taking out the rest of the family. But the cherry on top is when the zombie dad presents a new Father's Day cake to the survivors of the family. But it is the head of Aunt Sylvia, and it's covered in candles, and it's an iconic image. Just as popular, I would say, with the phrase, "Where's my cake?" It goes hand in hand. Moving into our second segment, The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, starring our very own Stephen King, who's just so over the top. This is a story that was based off of a story that he already wrote, so that's awesome that he gets to kind of play in this film. And who he plays is kind of your stereotypical farm worker, but kind of an idiot. And that's why I say stereotypical, because obviously not all farmers are dumb. But this one is. And what happens is he sees that a meteor has crashed into his yard and immediately thinks to himself, wow, I just struck gold. I can sell this meteor and all of my issues will go away, except it's burning hot. He touches it because that's just who he is. He touches it, it's burning hot, he cools it off, and it cracks in half. There goes the money, right? So he's gonna put it together. But first, when you see inside the meteor, there's this like blue liquids. He pours the blue liquid out, tries to fix the meteor, and that's when he realizes that, hey, maybe he shouldn't have touched all that stuff, because his fingers start growing grass. He doesn't do anything about it, so he doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't go to the doctor, and instead he just kind of sits there as the grass and leaves continue to just kind of take him over to the point where he becomes this grass plant creature. Just full on covered in grass and mold. And he's not going to do anything about it. So he decides to take the extreme measure to end it himself, if you know what I mean. And that's what he does. And at the end, we get this nice wide reveal of the world outside of the house, and that blue liquid has basically taken over that area. I'm sure it will be taking over the earth, but just covered in grass and mold, and yeah, there goes the world. All thanks to Jordy Verrill, who, died a very lonesome death. Our third segment is Something to Tide You Over, starring Leslie Nielsen from Naked Gun. But, playing a very straight villain. We also have Ted Danson, so I'm just going to refer to them as the actors' names. And what happens is Leslie has a girlfriend or a wife who he realizes is cheating on him with Ted Danson. And so he confronts Ted Danson and basically kidnaps him. And says, like, I know what you're doing and I'm going to do something about it. And what he does is takes Ted Danson to a beach and buries him all the way up to his neck in the sands, and shows Ted. He pulls out a whole TV and a camera, a whole like network. But on the TV, you see the girlfriend or wife that Ted was sleeping with, also buried up to the sand, but she's further down the beach, and that's where the tide is coming in. And so you can see the tide essentially about to bury her in water, drown her, because she can't get out. There's nothing she could do about it. And so Ted is, I think, had to bury himself, by the way, but Ted is buried up to his neck in sands, and you would think he could just kind of bolt, maybe wiggle around. It is very tough to get out of sand when you're buried in it, but certainly he could try something, except like I said, Leslie Nielsen has a camera pointed right at him. And so Leslie, he's going to go back home. He's going to make a drink. He's going to watch these people die, which is so messed up. This is actually a really dark segment if this were to happen in real life, and it probably has. But we see that the tide is coming in, and there's nothing Ted Danson can do about it. Now, at one point, we see Ted underwater, completely submerged, and there's a glow. And then that's about it. So no explanation as to what's about to happen, but what does happen is Leslie Nielsen goes back to retrieve the bodies and realizes they're not there. The tide probably took them out. He gathers up all of his equipment, and he's good. He's good to go. He's living the life, having a drink back at his home. And that's when he's visited by Becky is the girl's name. Visited by the mossy corpse of Ted and Becky. And it is another just great piece of makeup effects, especially when Leslie Nielsen shoots one of them in the head, and we see it happen, and this like green nasty juice kind of just falls out as if they are these green sea creatures. And essentially Ted Danson and Becky, the character name, they are going to take care of Leslie Nielsen just like how he took care of them. And so, yeah, they they bury him up into the sand just like they did with them. And, we're left to believe that he dies. I think it's a solid story. I'm a big fan of that one. Super messed up, super dark, but a lot of fun at the same time. Our fourth segment of the film is one that people really, really love, and they really love Fluffy. And yes, the fourth segment is the crates. Now, we're at a university. A janitor discovers a crate. And on the crates, it says it's from an Arctic expedition from the 1800s. And so he calls one of the professors. We're just going to call him Professor Dexter. Dexter is at a party with all of his professor friends, and we'll talk about some of those people in a second. But essentially, the janitor says, hey, you got to come check this out. And so Dexter heads to the university. They check out the crates, and they finally get it open. And that's when Fluffy, who is this kind of ape-like creature with crazy sharp teeth, almost looking like a wolf at the same time, basically instantly kills the janitor. And it's just a bloody mess, and Dexter's freaking out, runs away. And so he goes, and I think he runs into a student named Charlie. And Charlie and Dexter go back to check out the crate. And the crate is not there anymore. It's a bloody mess. I think there's a shoe left over. It's a disaster, but they go back to where the crate was, which was under some stairs. and they find the crates, and he gets Charlie to kind of go in and check it out. And again, Dexter's not learning his lesson here. Charlie immediately gets eaten, gets destroyed by Fluffy. So Dexter is traumatized. He leaves and he goes to one of his friend's house, who is another professor. We saw this professor earlier in the film. And so this is Professor Henry. I'm going to call him Professor. I mean, that's his name, but Professor Henry decides this is a great time, based off of what Dexter has told him. This is a great time to get rid of my wife. Now, earlier at the party, we saw the wife who is kind of drunken and belittles Henry. And so he sees this as an opportunity to get rid of his nagging wife. And so he drugs Professor Dexter to just, go to sleep so that he can handle this. And so he goes to the university. This is Henry now. Goes to the university to clean up the mess that Dexter has left behind. So he's cleaning up all of the blood. And then he invites his wife to the university to help him, kind of coercing her to her death, essentially. And he makes up this excuse about Professor Dexter. But she gets there, and again, same thing. Fluffy's still hungry. I mean, he's been in that box since the Arctic. So yeah, he's going to eat that wife. And then Professor Henry takes the crates and with the monster in it and throws it into the quarry and into this water, this body of water, and to let it drown as it sinks. And that's what he tells Professor Dexter the next morning, and they both just kind of brush it off because it's all taken care of, right? Except we get this nice final image of the crate being ripped open, and Fluffy's doing just fine. If it can survive in that crate since the Arctic, it can survive being in the water. Our fifth and final of the main segments is called They're Creeping Up on You. It kind of has this great dystopian vibe, but basically we follow Upson Pratt, who is this billionaire, kind of like an Ebenezer Scrooge type. But as we all know, billionaires, kind of the worst. He's sealed himself off to all humanity, and he's got this very futuristic type of security that is happening with his apartments. He also is just obsessed with just everything being white and clean. So what Pratt is doing during the segment isn't super important. Essentially he's just being the classic jerk billionaire. But every now and then, as the story is progressing and we're just finding out how awful this guy is, a cockroach appears. And again, Pratt hates dirty, and so he's gonna take care of this cockroach. Immediately has bug spray and takes care of it. He even calls the handyman who is on vacation and is like, "You better get here now and take care of this." So of course that can't happen. And being a billionaire, he has all this power, so he's threatening people and just being the worst. Karma continues to poke at him. A few cockroaches here, a few cockroaches there, and then suddenly the power goes out. And I don't know what exactly happens because the power goes out, but somehow more cockroaches can get in, and it just becomes absolute chaos. It is cockroach heaven. And yeah, nightmare situation. And so Pratt escapes to his panic room because, of course, he has a panic room in this tiny, what seems to be like an apartment, basically. That doesn't help anything, by the way. These cockroaches get in. I mean, they're cockroaches. They get in, and he goes so crazy that he just dies by heart attack, alone in the panic room. But there's this nice reveal where all the cockroaches aren't there. There's nothing wrong with his space of living. He's just there, croaked over in the panic room. But then, right at the very end, we see the body kind of rustle a little bit, and then cockroaches just come from all orifices. It's pretty gross. I mean, they're all real cockroaches, too. I cannot imagine trying to make that movie. But yeah, there you go. that's the fifth and final segment. And then to round it all up, we have the epilogue. And like I said, it's essentially furthering the segment that we saw at the beginning. Now, the comics have been thrown out, and the trash man comes by and starts reading the comic and notices at the end there's some things that you can buy, you can claim, you can redeem. And so what does Billy redeem before these comics get thrown away? It's not the X-ray specs, it's not a bodybuilding course. Instead, it's a voodoo doll, which we see Billy holding, and it looks to be dressed like his father, who is kind of complaining about some neck pain. And that's when we see Billy just poking this voodoo doll right in the neck over and over and over, getting revenge on his jerk of a dad who won't let him read comics. And that's it. There you go. That's kind of the overall look into these segments. And yeah, this is the first film. And from here, I'm not really going to go super deep into Creepshow 2 and 3. I will somewhat talk about some of the segments. But yeah, I really, really, really love Creepshow. Like I said, Tom Savini just really brought it home with all of the creations that he helps make. But also, the stories themselves are great. They're freaky, they're disturbing, somewhat over the top, depending on the segments. Some will have you laughing, some will have you pretty scared, and some will have you smiling ear to ear, because it really is, it's just a lot of fun. But what I really love is the overall theming and presentation of this film, right? So the segments, they are a part of a comic book. And so to tie it all together, there's a lot of really cool things happening. There's RGB lighting that's being used when you would think it never is used. There's a ton of Dutch angles, a ton of framing that is overlays that are supposed to help kind of push the boundary of what a film usually doesn't do. But because it's kind of based in a comic book, it totally works. It happens all through the movie. It's a great way to kind of segue in between segments as well. So not only are we dealing with well-written, well-shot segments that have incredible practical effects in them, we also have this great overall vision that really brings this all together like a cohesive film, despite it being multiple stories. That's kind of the whole point of an anthology. I don't think everything needs to fully connect, but it definitely needs to feel like similar vibes. The stories can be completely different, but doing what they do really kind of helps make it feel like one singular film. And now we move into Creepshow 2, which was made 5 years later in 1987. Now, this one, slightly different in the billing. Michael Gornick directed this. He was apparently the cinematographer for the first film. The screenplay, not by Stephen King, but instead George A. Romero. But the stories are still based on Stephen King stories. Another different thing here is there's only 3 segments, and so let's just dive right into it. We do kind of have a prologue and an epilogue, and then sometimes there are interludes. The difference here is that they are animated. It starts off live action and then immediately goes into this kind of Don Bluth looking animation. Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer, but there you go. That's what's happening. Essentially, Billy is back again, animated, and the only really big thing that happens at the beginning is that there's a new batch of Creepshow comics, and Billy's picking one up to read, and the creep is around as well. So let's get to the first segment, the main segments, which is Old Chief Woodenhead. This is kind of taking place in a small, rundown Western type town, clearly dying. Ray and Martha Spruce, they own a general store that no one is really going to, but out front of the general store, you have Old Chief Woodenhead, which is kind of your typical cliche cigar store Indian. There is a Native American tribe that visits the general store. The leader, whose name is White Moon. Apparently, this tribe is in debt with Ray and Martha Spruce, and so they want to pay their debts by basically giving him the tribe's riches. There's a lovely turquoise necklace, for instance. And so, yeah, it's a nice kind of meeting of people who respect each other. Before the store closes, the Spruces are robbed by a couple of kids. One of the kids is actually White Moon's nephew. They end up killing the Spruces, both of them, and robbing them. And that was not a part of the plan, killing them, but now they gotta get out of there. Now they gotta run. And so they leave. They go back to their homes. There's 3 of them. They go back to their homes to get ready to pack so that they can bolt and get out of there. There's just one problem. Old Chief Woodenhead comes to life. And it's this really great effect that looks like the wooden figure is alive. It's really, really cool. So what happens is Chief Woodenhead finds the friends in their separate locations. The first friend gets shot with multiple arrows. The other friend gets attacked with a tomahawk. And then there's nephew Sam, who gets scalped with a hunting knife. And so what happens is the following morning, White Moon wakes up and he looks over and he realizes the treasures that he left to the Spruces are there. They have been returned. And he probably knows what happens. And so he goes to the general store and realizes Chief Woodenhead's still there. Fresh red paint on his head. And Chief Woodenhead's holding that scalp of his nephew. And it kind of just ends there. It's super sad. But it's nice to see Chief Woodenhead taking care or getting revenge for the Spruces and taking care of the community there. Yeah, it's a good one. I do like it. We do get to an interlude where Billy is buying another thing out of a comic, and this time it's a Venus flytrap bulb that he's going to plant. And that's about it. We move on to the second segment. This second segment is called The Rafts. We have 4 college students driving out to a beach. It's pretty much shut down because we're getting closer into wintertime. There is a large raft in the middle of the lake. This beach type lake is where everyone likes to go and swim swim out to that raft and just kind of hang out. And so they do that. They get to that raft, which is a pretty good swim away, not crazy. But as they get on the raft, they realize there's this weird mossy sheet-like creature floating in the water, and it's starting to approach them. And in the movie, that's exactly just what it looks like. It looks like a patch of moss, like a sheet that is just kind of moving in the water. They don't know what it is, and so one of the girls out of the group decides to touch it, and that's when it pulls her in and dissolves her, essentially, like basically is digesting her right in front of all of them. And yeah, they start freaking out. There's 3 left. The problem with a raft, right, is that it's made of woods, and you can get things in between pieces of wood, in between the lumber, and that's exactly what the raft does to one of the boys. And basically, like, sucks him through the wood, essentially, digesting him. It's nuts. It's absolutely insane. And so, all we have left is Randy and Laverne. They fall they fall asleep in each other's arms on the raft and wake up and see that nothing has happened to them. I don't know why the raft didn't get them throughout the night. I don't know. But what I do know is Randy is the worst human in the world. See, Randy has a crush on Laverne, and Laverne is right next to her. So what is he going to do? He's going to cop a feel on her and just completely just does the worst type of thing that you can do. And what happens is he's confusing her enjoyment of what he's doing to her with actual pain, because what happens is the blob, the creature, the moss sheet has done what they did to the other guy and reached through and starting to dissolve her, and she turns around and wakes up and like half her face is gone, which is a bummer, absolute bummer. And Randy, again, just the absolute worst type of person, leaves her behind and tries to swim ashore as fast as possible while the blob is occupied with Laverne. And Randy, he makes it. It's close, but he makes it, and he turns around and he starts taunting the blob. But that's stupid, because he's the worst, and he's a little close to the water, close enough to where the blob can reach up and basically grab him in off of the shore and obviously killing him. And then that's it. Everyone's dead. And it's an absolute bummer. But as the camera kind of leaves, they do show a sign that says no swimming. Sometimes you got to follow the rules. So there you go. That's the rafts. And we're getting to another interlude where Billy is being ambushed by a bunch of neighborhood bullies. And Billy is being chased by them. And I think they eventually catch up to him because at one point they destroy the Venus flytrap bulb that he had. Billy, I think, like kicks one and runs away, and they start chasing him. But that's the interlude in between before our third and final main segment, which is called Hitchhiker. Hitchhiker follows Annie, who is cheating on her husband. A lot of terrible people in all of these, by the way. I guess we enjoy seeing terrible people suffer. But essentially, Annie is cheating and realizes that she's got to get home. She's got to race home before her husband gets back. And so that's what she does. She gets in her car, she drives fast, and pulls a I Know What You Did Last Summer and runs right into a hitchhiker who is traveling to Dover. He's holding a sign that says Dover, which is a town in Maine, if you didn't know. Just so you know. Fun fact, I guess. Annie realizes that no one saw her do this, and so she takes off because heaven forbid she gets caught cheating. This is not the worst thing that she could have done. Now, people do see this. They report the hit and run, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the segments. Annie is driving, and out of nowhere is being haunted by the hitchhiker. And the hitchhiker just appears and starts attacking her. And it gets so bad that she veers off the road and runs into a tree multiple times because she has somehow pinned the hitchhiker and is trying to kill him. At one point, she's like running over him multiple times as well. He keeps coming back. And yeah, it's an absolute disaster. It's an absolute mess. She gets back home. Her husband's still not home. I don't know what he's up to. But she pulls into the garage, and hopefully, she can cover it and be fine. Maybe she hit a deer is her excuse, even though she looks awful because she's being attacked by someone. But it's fine. She gets out of her car and is then again attacked by the hitchhiker who says, "Thanks for the ride, lady." And as she's getting attacked, the garage door closes. The car is still running, and you can pretty much figure out what's going to happen with a closed garage door. And sure enough, George, the husband, he gets home and sees the still running car in the garage filled with carbon monoxide. And it seems to be actually the only thing that has killed Annie. However, a little piece of the sign is left. The sign that says Dover is left there in her lap. So what happens? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Don't hit hitchhikers and then drive off. There's a whole franchise about that. Now we have an epilogue, the finale of the prologue and the interludes, and Billy has brought the bullies to a vacant lot, and that's when we realize that his Venus flytrap that got crushed is not the first one that he has purchased. Now he has a team of fully grown Venus flytraps that are immediately hungry for bullies, and that's exactly what they do. Now at some point it turns into live action again, and the newspaper people that are dropping off the comics drive away, and the Creep is on that truck. The Creep, played by Tom Savini. The Creep also just doesn't look like the Creep in the first film, but in the end, I am a fan of Creepshow 2. It's just not as strong as the first one, obviously. I think having fewer segments is kind of a bummer, but they're still pretty good. I'm a big fan of Old Chief Woodenhead, I gotta say. But one movie that one segment, that I really have issues with is the rafts, and it's the whole essay that happens between the two final characters. Now, I understand this is a product of its time, But I think there's still a better way for us to hate this guy. And I think it just kind of comes down to, instead of groping the girl next to you, if you're really just like a terrible person, just leave. All right, or maybe like push her in, or something like that. Like he could have done something that would have made us hate him, and be happy that he dies at the end, just like what happens in this segment. It's just they didn't have to go that far. Insane. But there you go. I digress, because it's time to get into Creepshow 3, which is an abomination. And you can immediately tell because the opening credits. All right, you have the poster of Creepshow 3. It's this terribly drawn looking poster. And the opening credits are just different parts of the poster, and it's being zoomed in, it's being spun a little bit, and the kind of crossfading in between as the titles are the credits are being played. I mean, it's just awful. Now, this movie was made years after Creepshow 2, in 2006, and holy cow, we can tell. I don't know if you've watched movies in 2006, and also this is kind of the birth of YouTube as well, so we're seeing a lot of amateur work more and more on the internet, and this is it. I swear this is exactly what it is, and it gets worse because we do have prologues and interludes, and it's also animated, but it's the type of animation that again looks like 2006, like E-Bombs World YouTube garbage. It is awful, almost disturbing that they let someone draw things. Big red flag also is that this has nothing to do with anyone from Creepshow 1 and 2. No one is involved. Apparently this was going to be kind of a test to do a Creepshow TV show, and this was a terrible test. Awful. Terrible. And not to bury the lead, but this movie is so bad that I barely want to talk about each segment. I will at least let you know that this entire movie and each segment is actually connected. It's sort of played out of order. You don't really notice this in the first episode or the first segment, which is titled Alice. And here's the thing. I'm a sucker for when movies are told out of order. Love that type of stuff. I love when different stories, different characters, I love when they all kind of collide into each other. But this is just trying to be way too smart for what it is. Okay, we're moving on. I very much dislike this movie. And it's pretty funny that this is happening in episode 1 of this podcast. But maybe for the only time this entire time, this is a moment where I tell you not to watch a movie. I would say don't waste your time with Creepshow 3. I actually love the idea of revisiting Creepshow because I think Creepshow deserves a segment where I'm not talking about Creepshow 3, but instead the TV show, which I hear is good. I didn't have time to watch the TV show before this, so I wouldn't mind revisiting this because Creepshow 3 is awful. But there you have it, a quick rundown and review of the Creepshow franchise as we segue into our final segment of the show, the ranking. I'm taking these rankings very seriously. I'd love to become the official stop for all franchises ranked. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start from the bottom and move our way up. That's how we're going to do our rankings every episode. Because of course, you don't want to know what's in last place. You want to know what's first. And we will get there. In third place, it's no surprise. Potentially the worst movie I've ever seen. It is Creepshow 3. I'm not going to rank the segments. It's not worth it. In the end, I just don't like it. It is not good. And I've seen a lot of bad stuff. But this is truly atrocious. And the fact that it's connected to Creepshow really doesn't help either. Moving on into second place, it's Creepshow 2. I think it's a great follow-up. I think it's suffering from the lack of segments, the lack of comic animation. You know, the first one did that so well, where it kind of felt like it was segments or panels of a comic book, and this one didn't have it at all. And the prologue that was animated, it should have been live action. Yeah, it seems like a lower budget straight to video attempt, which again I think is crazy. I feel like the first one was successful, so I don't know why you would cheapen it. But oh well. And then finally, of course, it's a no-brainer. First place winner is Creepshow. And I feel like I've already said my piece about Creepshow and how much I love it. And so let's rank the 5 segments as well. In last place of the segments, The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. I'm sorry. Stephen King's acting is so over the top, which they did tell him to do, is what I read. But it's so over the top, I can't enjoy it. It's goofy. I still like it, but not as good as the top 4. In fourth place, They're Creeping Up on You. I do like it. It's gross, all of those cockroaches. But I do enjoy it. I just don't think it's as strong as my third place, The Crates, which is a lot of people's first. I do love The Crates. There's a lot of pieces that kind of have to work together for this story to act out, and it's a lot of fun. Of course, Fluffy is amazing. I would love to see more Fluffy. I feel like everyone wants to see more Fluffy. In second place, for me, is Father's Day. It's just iconic Creepshow, and maybe because it's the first segment. I don't know. Maybe they really tried. Who knows? It's just such an iconic segment. I love it so much. Where's My Cake? In first place, I really love Something to Tide You Over. I'm a big Leslie Nielsen fan, and I think he is wonderful. He is a great villain in this, but this story is dark. It's messed up. You know, a lot of these stories kind of have a little bit of a B-movie vibe to it, which is a lot of fun. But Something to Tide You Over, there's nothing fun about that one. It is a dark scenario that our characters have found themselves in. And I kind of like it. I kind of like it. So there you go. First place, Something to Tide You Over. First place overall, of course, Creepshow number 1. Boom. First official ranking in the books, which means it's also our first episode as well. I am blown away that we are actually here. This is very exciting for me, and I truly hope that you loved it. I am absolutely a bit over my heads trying to do all of this, but it's still great practice, and hopefully you stick around, because obviously we're just getting started, and things can be fixed and changed and updated as we move on. But there you go, episode 1. To stay tuned for future announcements and updates, be sure to follow me at B-Star Cinema on all platforms. This includes YouTube, where you can watch the podcast, as well as on Spotify, where you can watch or just simply listen. Press play, throw your phone away, have a walk, whatever. But, you know, if you want to watch, I'm here. Sometimes I'm looking at my screen because I want to make sure I'm staying on task. But yeah, for the most part, I will definitely say hi into the camera. If you'd like to help this journey continue, consider becoming a member on our Patreon or Ko-fi. Not only can you take polls and leave franchise suggestions for future episodes, every paying member gets a special shout out at the end of each episode, which would happen right here, except we just started, so I'm not expecting anyone immediately. But yeah, there you go. That'd be awesome if you wanted to do that. I can't believe I'm saying this, but episode 2 comes out in 2 days, where we tackle another franchise and end up staking our claim in what we think is the correct ranking of films. But until then, I've been Bryan Starr. Thank you for joining me on this impossible adventure as we push the boundaries and talk about every franchise ever.